going and then. All right, welcome everyone to what is it, the July 2nd Technical Steering Committee meeting for Warewulf. Thanks all for being here. If you see that I've missed noting your presence, let me know and we'll make sure you get marked down. Tim isn't here, is he? No, I think he's traveling this week. Um, we have two main topics for discussion today. One is planning and coordination for the Perk BOF, which is happening. Rose, what are the dates for that? Do you remember?
Oh, it's coming up. Yeah, July
Yeah.
20th, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I believe.
Something like that. End
Yeah.
of the month.
Well, the
And
22nd. The 22nd is our
22nd.
BOF. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then planning out the imminent Werewolf 462 release. But before we get into any of those, does anyone have anything else that they'd like added to the agenda for discussion? All right. Hearing nothing, and of course we can add stuff as we go if it comes up. Let's get it started. Wait, I mean, action items are just about perk, which we have on the main discussion thing, and then uh the open HPC stuff. Maybe since we won't be or sorry, the SC25 buff, since we won't be talking about that in the general discussion, Rose, are there any updates there? Anything to share with the group about that progress?
I do not have any updates, no, but looking forward to it. I know that we have gotten the green light to collaborate and we shall do that. And
Yeah.
I can reach out later.
My recollection is that they're coordinating a thing and we'll hear from them. I didn't expect any updates, but
Yeah.
um so with that, let's move on to our first discussion topic, which is the perk buff, so the perk 25 buff, of course. So Rose has presented this talk outline, which is grown from our original submission. I think we're on the same page as a quick, like 5 minutes for introductions, a brief overview of new stuff that's in Werewolf in 4.6, which now it seems we'll be able to talk about provision to disk as well. My name is here, but I think we had talked about Ian, maybe you being able to give a couple sentences about what's going on with Debian and Ubuntu support, because I certainly can't speak authoritatively about it.
Sure. I hope to have it packaged by then.
Okay.
Make life easy.
Um, and then a user community spotlight, which I believe is going to be presented by, is it George Washington University? Is that we have a couple guests here to talk about that. And then the remainder of our time to be used as like open discussion and taking questions from the audience and things like that. So Rose, what else needs to be done? To tell us how to make this the best possible werewolf buff such that every conference would want to have one.
That's right. We'll just spread it around. This is what you can imagine having at your conference, which is actually pretty true. This is a great group, and I just really appreciate all your guys' time and energy and effort and everything that you bring to it, and how excited we are to do our first BOF at Perk 25. Yeah, so Rubil is here from George Washington University. Really good to see you. And I think Joseph is actually going to be doing the presentation. So I can't tell you guys how excited we are when you reached out, because we were like, who in the community? Okay, you reach out to your people, I'll reach out to my people. And then Reveal, you just said, hey, we'd like to do it. We all went, yeah. So yes, it's very exciting. So yeah, Joseph, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a couple of notes. I mean, we put in some bullet points here, but I don't know if that's exactly what you're going to be talking about. Those were just some ideas. I know you guys sent over some ideas, something about a migration or an implementation, some of the challenges. So if we could kind of flush out just a couple of your things so that the team can be aware of what, questions might come up from what you share.
Sure. Hi, nice to meet everyone. I know
Yeah.
I've interacted with you, Jonathan, on Slack. Very good. Yeah, we're still working on outline, but we have just briefly what we're looking about talking about is kind of our journey. So we started with Werewolf 3 and our first flagship cluster back in like 2000, for my time, 2010, 11. And our second flagship cluster, which we still run, was kind of a white glove installation, and we had Bright Cluster Manager as part of that. And then when licensing and costs kind of started spiraling, we migrated to Warewulf 4. So something that enabled that was that we had smaller test clusters to work with to kind of get a comfort level, get people educated, all that good stuff. So that's part of what we want to get into. We've got a couple of different versions we're running now, so that's another thing. But all of our clusters are running either 4.5x or 4.6x. And what else? Total of close to 300 nodes altogether.
Okay.
I'm kind of looking through my outline of notes. It's still a work in progress, as I said.
Yeah, of course. I think the main thing for me, at least, and others on the call might have other questions, but if there are, there was a mention of like pain points and things to look forward in the future. If there are any of those that you're able to share so that we can be prepared to like discuss them or know what parts of the roadmap might be pertinent based on reactions to your presentation, that would be useful. Not to like block or hamper any of that. By all means, like part of a big part of the goal is where are the deficiencies and what can we do about them. But the more we know about what we what will be presented, the better.
Yeah. One thing is that our director is very passionate about IPv6, so that's a big piece. So we've been kind of working that. You might have seen the patch that the pull request that one of my colleagues put in. Yeah, so that's something. The other thing is high availability. We're trying to figure that out, and some of that may be out of scope, but that's something we're trying to figure out. Is, for example, to Warewulf servers on a cluster and how you kind of manage that. And those are the things I have notes on. Just
That's
very
great,
more bullet points rather than anything else.
The best part about that is that will be like a big part of the reason. IPv6 is what it is. We just need to do it, and it hasn't happened. But and gauging from the room, like how much interest there is in it, will help motivate that. So that's great. And I did, in fact, I was just reminded of that PR last night when I was filtering things that we were going to block and not block the 4.6.2 release on, and distressingly moved it to the 4.6.3, but maybe we'll get it in for that. But yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. And then the HA thing is it'll be a great discussion, I think, in the room, because a lot of the reason it isn't done is we don't have a clear path on what people would want to see. And so if we can have a discussion in there on what people would want that to look like, then I could see that definitely turning into actual feature availability. So great.
Yeah, just to add as well, from my perspective, the thing that I hear the most, because I'm constantly talking to people about Warewulf from, all different companies and areas, is just what you have just said in these couple of bullet points are what everyone's talking about. It's like, wait a minute, how do you go from 3 to 4? Wait, what is the benefit of going from 4.5 to 4.6? What are the struggles around that? What about scaling? So these are, I imagine that we're going to have a overflow of interest and questions and feedback.
Is there anything we can do to support either of you in your participation? Do you feel like you have what you need, or is there any information or anything else that would help?
Think of anything, Raphael? I think you're on the road. Nothing is coming to mind.
Okay.
Hi. Sorry, I'm on the back roads driving home. That's why. I think we are good at this point, but if we do need some support, I'll reach out. But these are the topics that we're hoping to discuss. Again, it's more about the journey, and we had some points about the upgrade paths that we had, I think, for version 4.5 were a little bit painful, but 4.6 made it much easier. I don't remember what the exact issue was, but we need to hammer that down. But it was something in the past, and we have moved away from that. Now we are quite happy with how the upgrades happen. So we'll just be talking in those aspect areas, nothing major, as in, you know, Werewolf sucks or it doesn't work for us, and nothing like that.
You come with a werewolf effigy, and we violate the fire code by burning it in the room.
No, we're not going to do that. Rose has given us enough T-shirts around. So
Well, if there is anything we can do to support you, I hope you'll reach out to Rose, of course, or to any of us in Slack, really. And yeah, excited to talk with you.
and once we have the presentation, I'll share that with Rose just as a, just to give her a heads up what we're presenting.
Great. Rose, what else?
Well, to me, this is good. I just want to make sure that anyone, especially on this call, is mentioned in here. So I did put Joseph down next to the George Washington University, and then kind of at the top, the rest of us. So Jonathan, myself, Timothy, I believe, plans to be there. Ian, is there anyone else on the call now? Chris is going to be there too. Chris Short shall be with us. Jeremy, are you coming?
No.
Okay. And then Chris Gall?
No.
No. Okay. Sumit?
No.
Okay. Okay, cool. All good. We'll can we record it? No, they said no recording, huh? I think they said no recording.
I think they're not providing recording. I don't know if that means we couldn't if we wanted to, but I think notes and a slide. We're going to do a blog post from CIQ. I think that that will have as much information in there as we can, but
yeah.
So the last thing or maybe two things kind of together for this, is I wanted to see if there were any requests or recommendations for topics of discussion. Of course, I imagine HA and IPv6 will come up from the community spotlight, but anything else that we should plan to bring up in that discussion. And then with that, I've been in several similar talks or BOFs or wherever, where there is like like word cloud, live, interact, answer survey questions on your phone kind of thing. And I wanted to ask this group if that's something that they would recommend or think we should do in this setting, or if just asking the room and then waiting for hands up is good for this kind of a talk.
I think we have it down there, but definitely the Bright migration is a big topic of interest.
Okay.
And what's happening in 4.6.2 with the stateful provisioning or diskful provisioning. Sorry, I'm I'm saying those wrong. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that will just come up naturally.
Okay. Well, of course, if there are additional suggestions for questions that we should bring up or be prepared to bring up in that discussion, Rose, what do you think about using some kind of survey software versus just asking questions to the room and hands up kinds of things?
Ooh, that's a great question. You mean maybe we could have like a little QR code or on their phone? They could just be like, yeah, this is what I'm using. This is what I'm interested in, so that we can actually have a specific follow-up for people.
Well, like some of my experience in the past with things like this is if you just ask a question, then either very few people answer or no one answers until something kind of gets the ball rolling. But if you ask a question that everybody can kind of just passively answer on their phone, and then there are results on the screen, then people respond to those results, and they're more likely to like speak up about or for or against what they see on the screen. But getting that initial thing going can sometimes be a little bit difficult, but maybe it'll be fine. Like, I don't know how big our audience will be, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do both, right?
Yeah.
It's, put up a poll, start with that, and I'm sure it'll generate spawn off, hand raising, additional comments and stuff.
Yeah.
But at least it's the conversation starter.
Yeah, so I asked within CIQ, I asked our IT department like what software they would recommend for this, and Zoom does have polling built in, and you can in fact use it even uh, when you're not doing this kind of a meeting. So maybe we can do that. But Rose, if you have any other suggestion for software that we could use, they also gave like the green light on using free stuff if we wanted to do that instead. Um, I'll look to you for recommendations on whether and what to do in that context.
Well, and if you want to record it, you could just use Zoom and
It's true.
two birds, one stone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, at least try. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll
Okay.
play around with that. I have
Okay.
the Zoom Pro or whatever,
Yeah.
actual paid account. So sure. Happy to.
All right. Anything else that we need to discuss for this buff? I think we will have one more meeting before the buff. Let me check my calendar here. So yeah, we'll have one more meeting on the 16th before the buff the following week. So one more chance to check in and make sure everyone feels good about it. But anything else we need to talk about before we move on to 461 or 462, actually? All right. Well, Rose, thank you so much for organizing this. I'm very excited to finally have one of these on the books, and I am sure it's going to go great, and we'll have lots of good discussion. And I think Perk is a great venue for it too. I think it's going to be really good. All right. Oh,
Yeah, I'll send that
yes.
out to all of you guys as well. I'll put it in the TNCs and emails if you're not in there.
Yeah, great. There is a link to it in our
there you
agenda
go.
here, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll have access to it. So yeah, thanks for sending it out, Rose.
Cool.
The last thing here on our agenda anyway is the 462 release. And for those of you who have not been in these meetings for the last several of them, the main blocker has been getting disk, like provisioning to disk into the code base and working with all stakeholders on board. And thank you to Christian, that was merged last night for me. Oh, he's disappeared again. Or where is he? Yeah, I think so. So great. And so that includes the ability to provision disks and then provision the operating system to a disk using both Ignition and then with a pile of more traditional Unix tools, sfdisk, makefs, makeswap, and systemd configuration for mounts. So that was a request by Greg that if we were going to introduce that functionality, that it not only work with Ignition. So you can do it both ways, and you swap them out just with overlays. So that was a request with Christian, the original implementation of the sfdisk et al. Code required separate configuration for each of those modules, but they're now all looking by default at the native disk and file system configuration that we introduced into Warewulf, I think in 460, but maybe before that. They can each be configured independently as well, but by default they will draw from that built-in configuration. And then depending on which overlays you have included on your node, it will use different tools to do the provisioning, which is all very cool. And I'm very excited to have it in. So that was merged. There were a few other relatively small things that were merged last night as well. Right now, this is where the release sits. So let's go here. Milestones. And so we have a pull request attached to an issue. So I suspect this was a relatively small thing. If someone could go in and review this, I think I have it tagged on Christian. But anyone with right could go in and review this. This could get merged. I am currently working on this, which is a bug that someone in the support department at CIQ noticed, that in 460 we broke the ability to import from a CSV. There was a combination of an accidental code deletion that then masked the fact that an interface had completely changed. So I'm about half done with this now. The big, and I expect to have it done in another hour or so. So I'll need someone to review that when it's done, and then this is just a documentation thing. So
Yeah, so
my
the
hope.
documentation thing you can just merge. I trust you made it right.
Christian, I think you were out when I said this, but this PR I think is ready to go. If you could review this, this
You
was a tiny
mean the
thing.
preserve file permission or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will check.
Yeah, this is the PR for this issue. So this was
Okay.
just
Yeah, I see now.
so the solution that I went with is, so before we were trying to move the file, and then if it failed because it wasn't on the same file system, then it would copy it. But moving it overwrites the file system permissions, and copying it does not. So I'm just always copying it now. And that resolved that issue. And then the issue is that when we went from node conf or node info, and during the node info merge, everything changed, and some code got commented out during that merge, and then probably I missed that it was not meant to be commented out and just removed it. And so all of the code that wanted to iterate over the node info and now needs to iterate over the node wasn't happening. So I'm more than halfway done with this. The biggest issue now is because nodes and profiles actually, like the node embeds a profile. When it iterates over the fields of the node, it isn't getting the profile fields. So I have to do an iteration over the profile fields separate from the node fields. But everything else is working, and that'll just be like one more for loop and then I should have a fix for this in. And then I think we'll be ready for 4.6.2. Any objections to proceeding with a 4.6.2 release once these three issues are resolved? Again, one of which is just a documentation thing.
From 4.6.1 to 4.6.2, how the update will be done?
I don't think there's any changes to any data structures. So you should just have to.
You changed, I think, the data structure for the disk, and we are dealing. No, it's not. We
I
now
don't think anything in
almost...
nodes.conf changed. At most, it should just be running the upgrade command, like when you went to 4.6.0 in the first place. But I'll double check, but I don't think anything changed in the actual YAML.
Yeah, that might be right, yeah.
There's new stuff introduced, stuff that you can do, but I think it's all in
Yeah,
resources.
okay, so then we misunderstood. Yeah, you introduced something new, I think, but that's it. Yeah. That's
So
also what I didn't open. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. One thing that did change, we added an ID, but it's an internal ID to disks and partitions and file systems so that they can keep
Yeah,
track
but
of their
they don't
names.
go to disk. That's not a problem.
But that doesn't go to disk, that doesn't go to YAML, so it doesn't change anything. And then we enabled so there were a number of disk configuration parameters that were present in the YAML but were not exposed as command line arguments, and one of those is now exposed as a command line argument. But that didn't change the YAML. It just enables the use of them from the command line. And then the new overlays for sfdisk and makefs and those, they support those disk configuration like that, those native entities, but they also support being configured explicitly through resources, but that doesn't change the YAML at all. They just are aware of the possibility of certain resources being defined. So you should just be able to upgrade the packages and it should be fine. Which is the goal, that is the goal within a 4.6. Everything within 4.6 you should just be able to upgrade and run. And then once we get to version 5, all those digits will shift over 1 and people will be more it'll be more normal. All right. Any other concerns about a 4.6.2 release or anything that needs to get included in it? All right. That's everything I have on the agenda, but anything else we need to discuss before we call it for today?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted is just to note is that the when testing the persistent disk. I found, I don't know why this now happens, but most people won't notice that when I used a rootfs for on a full disk, the Druckwood kind of formatted it wrong, and it couldn't be mounted, and I don't know why. But that's then I just made the rootfs a fixed size, and this helped at that point. So I never tested that really out. So that may be a thing. And the other thing, I'm not sure. What I dislike a bit about it is that the thing is how to behave when the rootfs fails. And at the moment, but there's no really good solution. Should you stop then or just reboot all the time? And both solutions are not really good, because on the one hand you should stop so that the admin will always notice, okay, that my node doesn't come up. I have to check something there. But it still implies then that you have to kind of touch this machine in perhaps with IPMITO or something like this, and to do something on it. If you would reboot, you would have the chance to fix it, but then you would have perhaps over weekend reboot cycles with a lot of reboots.
Yeah, I think that I feel like maybe Dracket's default behavior is to just crash and say, I have encountered an error. Well, I always have mine configured to drop to a shell. So, and that's not something in Warewulf aside from that I'm setting that as a kernel argument. I wonder if you can tell Dracket to reboot on error with a kernel argument rather than having to do it in the module. But
Yeah, but on the other hand, the behavior is now right fine, and yeah, it's okay-ish.
Yeah, for people in this
the
call,
thing is, it's kind of if you fail at such an early stage, there's nearly nothing sensible you can do. It's kind of
I have found the Dracket error log, if you drop into a shell, to be really helpful these days. And
but
for a while,
then you have to set this LD shell variable, and then you drop
Right.
into a shell, and then you can fix all the stuff, and then you are done.
Yeah, there's good error messages in there, and when I've been working on the provision to disk stuff, it's always been like one error message away from correct, and then I fix that error, and then it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, for people on this call, and then it will definitely be strongly emphasized in the release notes for 4.6.2, the provisions to disk stuff is a preview, and we covet responses and experiences with it, and you probably should not put important data in the operating system disk that you are provisioning. And the goal, of course, is to get it to what we would consider real production ready code, but this is an initial release of it to get it out into people's hands and see that we're all on the same page. And I have ideas for making the Dracket part of it, really just Dracket in general, easier to work with in the future, but it is what it is right now. All right. With that, I intend to get back to trying to solve this one remaining bug and then do the quick documentation thing. Christian, if you do get a chance to look at this,
I'm just looking at it, and I don't think your PR doesn't. I'm just convinced that your PR doesn't fix it.
Oh, okay.
Did you test it?
I did, yeah. But there's no automated test for edit, so I built it and ran
Yeah,
it and
that's
tried
that.
it.
You could. The thing is, yeah, that I think the rest can live if we now. Sorry to be rude here.
No, I by all means, if it doesn't fix it, let me know. I ran it
Yeah,
like
no,
myself by hand, and it
just
did. But
not before I write it down. Before you, the thing is, you changed that you don't rename the file, but copy it with util copy file back.
yeah,
See, but if you but when you copy it to the temporary file, then you're using IO copy. So util copy should kind of preserve all the stuff, but if the IO copy, It's in line. It's further up. It's in line 663.
Oh, within util.copy file.
No, no, no. Go up
Oh.
in the edit main. It's on line 63. It's not in the. You didn't touch it with the PR. So you have
Oh, you're saying there's another case where this happens.
no, no, no. So I don't know why the bug happens, but here you
Here.
copy the original file to the temp file. And I don't know if you modify if the I'm not British I'm not 100% sure
No, no.
that
So this is the copy out. So this copies,
yeah, this
I
is the
think.
copy out. And there we have to because on the copy out we have also to preserve the rights.
No,
It's
because
not
it
just on
doesn't
the copy
matter.
in.
No, it doesn't matter what the permissions on the actual temp file are, because then when we copy the contents of the temp file back into the original file, it's using the permissions in the original.
No, it's using the permissions from the original file.
Yeah, from the one, not from the temp file. Try it
From
out.
the one you no, did not from the temp file. You created the temp file by IO copy. So you're getting back the rights from the IO copy.
No, because when the way util copy file works is it opens both files and just writes data into it. So the permissions on the destination file remain.
Ah. So util copy file are things I would not expect.
It doesn't actually copy, it doesn't make a new file.
It doesn't make a new file. But would
it
it make a
writes
new
into the
file?
existing file.
It writes into the existing file, and because it just opens the file descriptor and dumps it there. Then why do we need util copy file at all?
I mean, because Go doesn't provide one.
Yeah, but what does it better? It's kind of yeah. Okay, then I will. Then thanks. It's approved.
I mean, run it. Make sure it actually works for you too. Yeah, but it
No.
worked for me, and there's no one
It's
even testing for it.
it's 30 degrees Celsius here. I won't do anything now. It's approved. You can and merged.
Oh no. All right.
Faster than you. Yeah, see you in 2 weeks. And
Yep. See you.
nah, wait. Will you draft the release then?
Yeah. So well, I'll do this one more and the documentation thing, and then I'll draft a
Yeah, the
release.
documentation thing you can merge, and the CV. Why is it broken? I don't know.
It's broken. We broke it during the node info merge.
Ah, right, because we used the node info to create. Yeah, that was always a kind of thing I wanted to have, is that when you have a node info that you could, I think as info, or so from Slurm has it, that you could say, okay, I want to see this and this and this value, and that you pass this automatically out. But then I thought,
Yeah.
okay,
So
it's
I'm basically, I just went back in time and grabbed the implementation code for this that was against node info before, and I'm just forward porting it to the current node struct. And I'm almost there, and I'll have something for
okay.
you.
You already worked on that, yeah. Okay, then
Yeah.
I will review it. If you drop it tonight, I will review it tomorrow. So it will
Okay.
be okay.
Yeah, it's real close. I've got I just need to iterate over profile fields now because we broke those out.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So
All right.
see you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for being here. And for those of you that'll be at Perk, we'll look forward to seeing you. But if you would like to join us for one more of these, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Excellent.
Bye.
You.